everybody, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back with another design team project for Country Craft Creations. For this, I have used the absolutely stunning Bloom Where You're Planted paper. So that is this gorgeous blue and yellow. I found this little, it's actually a bird feeder in the, they don't call it the dollar spot anymore. It's now Bullseye's Playground at Target. So, you know, that little spot as you come in that they've got like all the little, you know, $1, $3, and $5 items that there's honestly some fabulous things that end up in there that you can alter and whatnot. This was one of them. It was a little $5 acrylic birdhouse. And as soon as I saw it, I was absolutely not planning on making anything this week. We're getting ready to go on vacation. And I saw this on Tuesday morning and I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So here we go. Let me give you a little bit better view of the birdhouse sitting upright. So here we are. Just ignore all of the mess back behind me here. So here we are. I've got some little fence that I found in the floral section at Hobby Lobby. Same thing for all my little birds and my little leafy ivy looking stuff here. I had the white pom-pom trim in my stash. You can see where I've used the 12 by 12 of Bloom Where You're Planted to mat the back and the inside of the birdhouse itself. And then we've got a little folio. I couldn't resist. Those birds were too cute, and I had to do it. I had to do it. Okay, so that's the little birdhouse. In fact, I'll take the folio out and I can tip it a little bit better so you can really see back in there. I had some little bees in my stash from the virtual bee retreat. What was that? Has that been like 2 years ago now? 3 years ago. 2 years ago. Yes. So I had those in my stash. I thought those were perfect. Flowers, of course, from my stash as well. One of the cut aparts from the 12 by 12 collection. For the folio itself, I actually used the 8 by 8. So again, I've got some 49 and Market flowers from my stash on the front here and another one of those little bees. And this little folio, I think you guys are really going to like. Super easy, but it holds a ton. So I did this to kind of look like a little envelope, and I did the one little bee cut apart or tag from the 12 by 12 on a circle there to kind of look like an envelope seal. Okay, so there is a magnet in here. So this opens up. Down here on the bottom, we have a 10-page just flip. So this just flips all the way through until you get to the last page, and then this actually is glued down. I did initially cut a slit and kind of put it in there, but I ran my little tab the wrong direction, so it didn't want to finish folding open. So I ended up just gluing that down flat, and it works just fine. Okay, so up here, this opens up here, and this opens up here. We have a push waterfall for 4 by 4. Okay, you flip this up, and we've got another one going the opposite direction. Super easy, you know, until because I'd made like cards with these a long time, like years. When I say a long time ago, I'm talking years and years, long before I ever did mini albums with them, and honestly had forgotten about it until, you know, it's kind of made a resurgence lately. And I've always preferred the push over the pull down, but that's just personal preference. And then there is a magnet in there to keep that one closed as well. So this holds a ton of pictures. 4.5 by 7.5. You can see my little tags for my push pull, or for my push waterfalls hanging out the sides there. But this goes together super fast. So I will close this back up and we'll get started with the tutorial right now. Okay, for our little album that's going to go and sit inside of our little birdhouse, we're going to start with our spine pieces. So I have one piece that is 7.5 by 1 3/8 and one that is 7.5 by 1.5. Okay. I'm actually going to find a pencil so I can mark which one is which. Okay, so because this will come into play later. So 1.5, 1 3/8. Our 1 3/8 piece we are going to wrap with a piece of cardstock that is 9.5 by 4 3/8. We're going to use our 1 inch and our 1.5 inch spacers. And I've covered the back of this with tape. And I am using lightweight cardstock for this. Okay, so there's that one. For our other piece, our cardstock is going to be 9.5 by 4.5. Maybe. Okay. Our cover pieces, you're going to need 3 pieces, 4.5 by 7.5. I'm going to set one of these aside because we're going to do something to that one. And 1 piece of the cardstock. Cardstock is going to be 9.5 by 6.5. Let's switch my 1.5 inch spacer for my other 1 inch. Okay. Again, I've covered the back in tape. We're going to go ahead and put that down. And again, all right. Now, our other piece of chipboard. I'm going to use my ruler to find the center. I'm going to draw a line. Okay. And then I'm going to go up 1.5 inches, which is the width of my ruler. I'm going to draw another line. And then on the upper part, I'm going to measure and mark 1 inch and 1 inch. Okay. Okay, so there's my 1 inch, my 1 inch, center, my 1.5 inches. Okay. I'm going to go from my 1 inch mark here to the center point. I'm going to draw a line. Okay. So center point to the 1 inch and draw a line. Okay. And then I'm going to take my trimmer and I'm going to cut on that line to make a flap like an envelope. Okay. All right. So then we're going to take our other piece of cardstock and our 1-inch spacers, and we're going to go ahead and put this down. And yeah, you could wait and cover it with tape after you've trimmed it. I just didn't want to have to do weird cuts with the tape. So it's okay. It's just a little bit. It's not a whole lot. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and wrap this one. So I'm going to actually turn this way because I am using lightweight chipboard, and I'm just going to burnish around where the chipboard is. Okay. That just helps it fold over a little bit easier when you are folding the cardstock around the chipboard. I promise I know what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right, so like so. So I'm going to go ahead and miter. And miter. Okay. All right. For these two tabs, I'm actually going to miter without folding it. So I'm going to put the point of my scissors on that corner and then just miter. Okay. Like so. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap these two sides. Okay, and okay. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to we're going to fold this way. We're going to fold this way. Okay. And then we're going to grab the trimmer again. And I'm going to line up that fold line, the 1-inch mark, and I'm going to cut this off. Don't tear it. Tearing it's not good. And then again. Okay. Now, I'm going to fold this in, and I'm going to miter. Okay. I'm going to fold this in, and I'm going to miter again. Okay. Down here, I'm going to take and miter like that. Okay, and then we're going to wrap this just like normal. All right, so there's that. So I'm going to grab one of the spines next. We're going to burnish around the chipboard just like we did with that little envelope flap piece. And then fold and burnish just like normal. Okay. And miter. You do want to be careful when using the lightweight chipboard because it's very easy to accidentally cut into the chipboard just because it's thin, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap our ends on our spine. And wrap the ends over. Okay, then I'm going to flip this back over and burnish. And burnish. And this is my 1.5 inch piece. Oops, there's the end of that roll. I have another one ready to go. Okay. All right, so we can set that one aside. You're going to do the exact same thing to the other spine piece. Okay. The cover pieces, we're going to start out the same way. We are going to go ahead and burnish around. Okay, and miter. Okay, go ahead and get the backing off. You can, of course, just glue it, but I prefer this method. Okay, run the glue along the edge of the chipboard. You're going to use your bone folder. up, over, and down. I like to go to the opposite side, just so that this ends up being symmetrical. You can just go around, it doesn't really matter. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing to this other piece, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to start with these two pieces. Okay, you want your spine that is 1 3/8. The 1 1/2 we will do in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the tape off here. I'm going to run some glue. And then we are going to put our cover on. Okay. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And there we go. Okay. Now, for this piece, and I meant to trim this down before I did this, because, of course, this is going to come up too far. Okay, so we're going to take about 5/8 off of this. Not quite 5/8 off of this one. And I meant to do that initially and totally forgot, but that's okay. Okay, so this piece is going to go on our little short side here. Okay. And then this side is where this is going to go. Yes, that's fine. I was just thinking I've screwed this up again, but no, we're good. Because I have actually already screwed this up once. Okay. Right. There's that. Now, you need two pieces to reinforce. These are 7 3/8 by 5 1/2. I've covered the back completely with tape. This way it does not bubble up or lift or anything else after we put it down. It'll go down nice and smooth. I need to get that from right there. Okay. Okay. This piece, however, we want it to come up higher. Okay. So what I'm going to do, it's got two pieces of tape on here. I'm going to pull off the smaller of the two and get this lined up where I want it to start. Okay. So now I've got those two pieces sticking out. What I want is my knife. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of go along the edge here and kind of scratch the top of that where my line is. Okay. So if I hold this back, you can see I've got a line here. What I'm going to do is take my big scissors and I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch inside that line. and cut straight across. Same thing on this side. Okay. And now that's going to come on there just exactly like we want it. So I will pull this back and get that backing off of the rest of my tape. Okay. So that's all reinforced. Now you're just going to come with your bone folder and work those creases. Get everything folded up. I like to kind of pinch it like this once I get them, just to make sure everything's seated right. And again, we're going to just carefully burnish along there. And like so. And there is our little envelope folio. Okay, I'm going to get some things together for our inside bits, and I'll be back. Okay, so our first element, you're going to need 10 pieces, 4 by 6.5. You're going to score all of those with the 6.5 at the top of the scoreboard at 1/2 inch. Okay, you are going to miter these because we're going to stack them. Okay, grab a couple of clips. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and, here's your bone folder, fold and burnish all of these. Okay. So then I'm going to stack them up like so. And I'm going to make sure that they're even on the end. Okay, so we're like this. We're going to take, I've got like 3 of them, don't want to cooperate, of course, right in the middle. Okay, well, we're going to start with these 4. We're going to get glue, and then you're just going to pinch these together. Okay. This is where you want to make sure, and of course I moved it, it got out of whack. I'm actually going to clip the bottom so that it does not get out of alignment, and try that one more time. Okay, like so. We're going to do the same thing with these. So I'm going to get these lined up. I feel like I'm missing one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I am missing one. I counted wrong. Oh my gosh, it's okay. 9, 10. I'll add my 10th one on here in a minute. Okay. This is not cooperating today, and I'm sure it's because I didn't burnish these well enough. They don't want to sit flat enough when trying to line them up. There we go. Much better. Okay. So we're lined up and lined up. Okay. And then we'll just do the same thing again. Okay. Only this time, I'm not going to worry about a little bit of glue coming out the top. It's not going to matter in the long run. And then I'm going to clip up top all the way across. Two more of those. Okay. And I'm going to let this sit and dry. And I'm just going to count one more time because I swear I counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I did have 10 there. I just can't count, which I'm sure surprises no one. All right, so I'm going to give that a second to dry. I did go ahead and add a magnet in here that apparently doesn't want to stick down on one end. No big surprise there. Okay. I did go ahead and add a magnet in here to hold it closed. This is going to go down here. Okay, so we do need to mat it first because of course it's not quite the same size, which is fine. But what I want to do, I'm going to let that dry and I'm going to mark where that tab needs to go. And we're going to cut a little slit in this paper before we put it down. Okay, so I'm going to grab a pencil, my ruler, and my knife. Okay, so we're going to center this on the paper, the pattern paper, okay? And I am going to mark okay, so I've marked with the pencil where that is. All right, I'm going to line this up. And I'm going to go just a hair inside where my line is. And cut. Okay. Now I can take my nice little mitered tab and I can dry fit this in here and make sure it's going to go all the way in. If not, we need to trim just a little bit wider. Which is fine. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold that over. Which actually we can do it, let's not fold it over, let's do it flat, okay? So it's going in like this, and that's how we're actually going to end up gluing it down, okay? Before I do that, I'm going to very carefully erase my pencil line. because you can just barely see it. Okay. Just a tiny bit of glue on there. And there we go. Now I can go ahead and do my glue on the rest. And go ahead and put the whole thing down. Okay. Okay. And there is our little, except for this one that, aha, ha, ha, ha. That's what I did. One of them didn't actually glue. That's why it got stacked in there weird, which is fine. We can glue it right up here on the top. Not a big deal. Okay. I knew I had cut 10 of them. I just didn't realize 2 of them were folded together. Okay. All right, so there is that element. We will add a ribbon closure, but we'll attach the ribbon on this side here and bring it around. And I'll do that in a minute. Let me grab my stuff for some of our other elements and I'll be back. Okay, so let's work on a couple of pieces that are going to go on the inside here. So I am going to start with a piece of cardstock that is 4 by 8.5. And I'm going to score 1/2 inch, turn, and then 1/2 inch again. I'm going to go ahead and miter. And set this one aside. Next, I'm going to take a piece that is 4 by 8. I'm going to start at 4 inches, and then I'm going to go 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, and 7.5. Okay. Next, I have a piece that is 7.5 by 4 3/4. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and at 3/4. And I'm going to set that one aside for now. Okay, I've got one other piece that was 4 by 8 that I started scoring at 4 inches and then went every 1/2 inch to the end. I have a piece that is 4 by 7.5 that we're not going to do any scoring on. And then I've got a piece that is 4 by 8.5. We're going to score it 1/2 inch on each end. Okay. So I'm going to take this 8.5 by 4 that we scored on each end. I'm going to miter. Okay. I'm going to fold and burnish. And we are going to adhere this one down on top of the 7.5 inch piece. Okay. This should sit flush on top of the 7.5 by 4 piece. Okay, so this is the one that I scored, that I had already scored. And I'm just going to come and bend all of these towards the bumpy side. And burnish. All right, so we're going to take this top tab in miter, and this one is going to get glued down on here. Okay. All right. Now, if you haven't already guessed, we're going to do a push waterfall. Okay. So I've got my little 4x4 squares for my waterfall. All I'm going to do is glue these on right up to the score line. Okay. Okay. All right. One more. Okay. So that's how that's going to go. I then have a piece that is 9.5 by 1. I'm going to open this back page up. I think I almost have gone too, oh, that's not good. Too far. I might have screwed it. Starting too far over. But we'll make it work. It'll be okay. Actually, no, it's fine, because from right here where we just glued this last piece down, I'm going to glue, I'm going to feed this through between the two here. I'm going to go up so it's right at the top of our back piece. Okay. Yep, that's exactly what I did. But we're going to make it work, because it will still work doing it this way. Okay. I am just going to fold this over and around, and then I'm going to go the same way with the other side. Okay. So we don't want it to be super tight, because then it's hard to pull, or to push, that is. And then we're going to glue this one down like so. Okay. So there is our first one. Okay. Our second one we're going to take our piece that's scored on the ends, fold and burnish. This is going to go on top of this flap. Okay. I do need to miter. Okay. Right. Okay. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go ahead and miter this top piece. And then fold and burnish. When you do this, make sure that it's staying nice and straight. And then I'm not actually going to fold that one. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did before, only we're going to go on the opposite end. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and glue these on the exact same way as before. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to run this through right up here at the top. Okay. I'm going to pick a side to start with, fold it over. And down. And then again. And again, we're not doing it super tight. We want there to be a little bit of wiggle room. Okay. And we're going to take our last piece. And it's going to go over this entire piece. Okay. And again, that will go like so. This one is slightly crooked. I had a couple of pieces that I think were kind of off that may very well have slid. Okay, so go ahead and fold that over. And this one is going to sit on top of the other one. So we want to glue it down, but we don't want it to glue on this first part. We want it to glue on the second part. So I'm putting glue on the back of that tab. I'm going to fold it out and slide it in the back. Okay. So this will close over this one like so, and you're going to have your double push waterfall. Okay, so this will go in back here, but we want to mat underneath it because it's not quite the same height. But before we do that, we actually have another flap that's going to go over this. So this is, this is 5 3/4 by 7 3/8 apparently. That's not right. 7 3/8 on both of those? I did. Okay, that is not correct. Let me... Okay, 5 3/4 by 7 1/2. Okay. 5 3/4 at the top of the scoreboard. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and at 1 1/4. Okay. Okay. So this one is going to attach right back here. Stand that up to make sure it's not too far back, so this will close the way we want it to. Okay, I'll let that sit for just a second. Our flap that goes underneath it, we're going to go ahead and leave it at 7 3/8. It'll be just fine. So 7 3/8 by 5 1/2. We're going to score it 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And we're going to miter again. And that one will go opposite. So we may not end up needing to mat. So again, I'm going to stand this up in the corner of my scoreboard. I'm going to center it up. And make sure it's not too far into my hinge there. Okay, so that's going to close up like so. So that seems too long. It is, because that was supposed to be 3/8. Guess it. Okay, I'm going to have to pull that one out because that one actually needs trimmed down. Sorry, I started to do this one way and then changed my mind. Okay, so this one, 7 3/8 by 5. I'm going to score it at 1/2 and 1 inch. So that much didn't change, just the overall measurement did. I apologize. Okay. So again, I'm going to stand this up against the edge of my scoreboard just to ensure that when I put this in here, I'm not getting too far over. Okay. All right, that's better. Okay, so that's going to close like so. Now, let's see how this fits and if we need to mat underneath it. I don't know that we do. I think it's actually going to be okay. What I'm more worried about is, yep, I'm not going to mat underneath that. I think it's going to be just fine the way it is. So I'm going to go ahead and get glue on the back. And this will go edge to edge. So you will center it between the two flaps. Okay, that will go like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a magnet there. Let me grab some of my small magnets. And really this top flap, if you wanted to, you could angle it so that it matches that. But at this point, I don't want to pull it off and do it. So I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to grab some score tape. I'll figure out where my magnets need to go. Okay. All right. There you go. So that is done. I still need to adjust that because it's not quite right, but that's okay. I can fix that in a bit. What I want to show you next is how to mat your little envelope flap, okay? So your flap should end up being a total of 3 inches by 7.5 after you've done your angle, okay? So again, I'm going to take my centering ruler and I'm going to find the center point on this, okay? I'm going to measure down 1 inch, just like we did when we were cutting this. Actually, no, not 1 inch. 7/8. I'm sorry. Not 1 inch, 7/8. Sorry about that. Okay. And then you're just going to line it up and cut. You can line it up and draw the line if you're more comfortable doing it that way. I'm just going to use my pencil marks and line it up and trim it off. Okay, there you go. And then that will go on the front. Okay, so there we go on that. And then you can just go ahead and mat and decorate however you want to. And there's your project. And that will sit right in here like so. I'm going to do some more decorating to this, and I probably will just do that kind of as a, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll show you my process on that next. Okay, so I found this little bird feeder at Target today in the, they used to call it the Dollar Spot, now they call it like Bullseye's Playground. and it was $5. It's just kind of a clear acrylic. And we are going to alter this and then make a small album that's going to sit inside. So I'm going to pull that out. I don't need the suction cups because I'm not hanging it anywhere. We're going to use Bloom Where You're Planted. I'm going to actually set this aside for now. So I'm going to use Navy Artisan to cover up the back and the sides. So what I'm going to do to make it easier on myself is I'm going to get this lined up in the bottom corner, because there's no point in cutting what we don't really need to cut. And I'm just going to hold this down, and I'm just going to go around this with a pencil and kind of get that angle that we want to get for the house. Okay. I'm going to take two pieces and I'm going to cut them both at the same time so that they end up being fairly similar. And I'm going to cut just inside my line that I drew. I mean, of course it's not going to be exact, but at least if I'm doing them both at the same time, they're going to be the same. Does that make sense? I do want to kind of smooth that out on the top. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up adhering one of them inside, and I probably need to take a little bit more off of the one that goes on the inside, which is fine. And then I'm going to get one on the outside, and I still need to trim that down just a touch along this side. Okay. That's going to go on the back like so. And I am going to kind of actually come in just a little bit. So you can see on here where like the edge is, where it's kind of thicker. That's what I'm actually going to kind of trim down so that we're coming in kind of even with that. Okay. A little bit more off this one side. There we go, that's good. And then I need some off the bottom, which that's a little bit longer. And I know how I am. It's one thing cutting a little bit of the short side, the long side, not so much. Okay, so that's gonna go in there like so, which means this should actually now fit on the inside. Not quite. but close. So again, I'm going to use this as my template. And just kind of clean up my edges here. Okay. I cannot get a hold of that. Come here. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to go back up this way and get that bottom edge. And there we go. All right. So we've got that. That should fit right down in there like so. Okay, my inside one, I'm still going to need just a teensy bit more off the bottom because it is kind of catching on the top there. But for my outside, we are just about perfect. But before I do that or adhere any of that down, I'm going to go ahead and take just about 1/8 off of the bottom of this one again. I want to find my pattern paper that I'm going to put on the back and on the inside. So let's grab our paper collection. I'm going to move my tags and my cut aparts because I don't want to use those just yet. And we're going to figure out which one is going to go on the inside. And I think it's going to be this one. For my inside. And then for my back. This is such a pretty collection, and it's one of these I've been trying to get back to. I'm going to put that one on the back, actually. I've been trying to get back to being able to have time to do something with this for a while, and time gets away from me, you know? Okay, so rather than trace it, I'm just going to hold this on here and carefully cut. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, well, what about leaving a border with our navy blue? We're going to do that. Okay, so we've got this cut. Oh, okay. Lift that out of the way again. And in order to get that border, what I'm going to do is take the piece that I've cut that's the exact size, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take, actually I'm going to take 1/4 inch off the bottom, and then I'm going to take 1/8 off of each side. Because then when we put this back on our piece that's going to go inside here, then it's going to line up with a nice border all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to move these two pieces for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and dry fit my base piece in here one more time, and it is exactly like I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my top matting. of town, so of course my glue bottle's not going to play nicely. So we're going to take that tip off for just a minute until I have a minute to go over here and get that cleaned off. Because it's been sitting for a few days and I actually meant to take it off completely and forgot before I left. But that's okay. All right, so there's that. What I'm going to do is take score tape, because I don't want to, I mean, I can probably glue onto this acrylic, but I don't want to try. And since I'm going to mat the back side of this as well, it's going to be fine. But I'm going to go around the outside edge of this with my score tape. And then I'm going to get some just kind of in the middle here, trying to avoid approximately where those the little holes are for the suction cups that we're clearly not going to use. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off. Okay, all right. I'm just going to carefully drop this down in here and burnish it down. There we go. That was easy, like super easy. We're not, what, 13 minutes into this? 14 maybe? And that was with me like finding paper. So, okay, we're going to do the same thing with our other piece. So I just need to figure out, okay, so my stripes are going to go up on the back. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did for the inside piece. I'm just going to hold this on top, and then I'm going to cut. Okay, and then again, we will take 1/4 of an inch off the bottom, and then we will take 1/8 off of each side, just to make sure that our little peak of our house stays in the middle. Okay, honestly I kind of like that one too, but we're gonna go with the stripe. Okay, so again with the glue, and I will fix that glue bottle here in a minute. And then we'll line this up and down. And then again with our tape. And again, because it's matted on both sides, you won't know there's tape on here. You won't see it. All right. And then again, I'll pull the backing off. Okay, and there we go. There is that. So the roof has this super cute little like scallop pattern on there, and I really kind of want to leave the roof as is. And then the sides have this cute little picket fence pattern. So I'm kind of trying to decide if I want to maybe cover this but then do that fence pattern, or if I'm going to leave it alone. The other thing I am going to cover is the bottom of this, which apparently I've got like tape in here from, okay, that's not going to work. All right, so I am going to go ahead and cover the bottom of this as well, just inside and outside. And for that, apparently I'm losing my ruler while we're at it here. Ah, there we go. I'm just going to measure this because it is just a rectangle. But again, you can see where that thicker part of the acrylic is. And I'm going to measure on the inside of that. So I'm at 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. So I should maybe 3 5/8. Nope, not quite. Okay. So grab one more sheet here. And we'll go 3 5/8 for one, and we'll go 3 1/2 for the other because it will need to be a little bit looser for that inside piece. And then 8 1/2 for that inside piece, and 8 5/8 for the outside. Okay, and then let's find our pattern for that. And for that, I think I'm going to use this yellow. Ooh. Where's that one? I like that one better. Okay, we'll use that one. Okay, so I'll go 3 1/4 for one, 3 3/8 for the other. And we'll go 8 3/8. And 8 1/4. Okay. So this is our narrower piece for the inside. And our outside. And I'm going to use the same side on both of those pieces, just because I really like that kind of gingham pattern on there. Okay, so this is for my outside. So I'm going to do the exact same thing again, except this time, because I don't have those little holes to worry about, I am going to do it with bigger tape. So this is 1/2 inch score tape. And then too, if you really wanted to, you could probably go over this with like Mod Podge or whatever to kind of decoupage it on there if you wanted to. I'm not going to, because it's like, this isn't going to get moved around and handled a lot, so it should be fine. Okay. So this one, we're just going to line up out here. This is my big one, isn't it? Yes. Okay. For some reason, I had just a moment there. I was like, wait a minute. Did I do this right? Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing for our inside piece. And again, we're just going to get the backing off. And drop that down inside. And there we go. So you've got your inside, your outside, your front and back. Like I said, you could do a little fence if you've got a fence die cut. I don't have a die to do that as far as I know. I started organizing my dies and got overwhelmed and said, nope, not doing this right now. If you had a die cut, and I might actually measure this and do it with the Cricut, I haven't decided yet. And then if you wanted to cover up your little scallop piece or paint this for that matter, you could probably actually paint in that. And I might play with that and see if that works as well. But otherwise, this piece so far is done. Okay, so for the decorating of the birdhouse, you're going to get a voiceover, and I'm really sorry because it was mostly just me talking to the cat and swearing every time I burned my fingers with the glue gun. So I've got some little fence pieces that I found in the floral section at Hobby Lobby that I'm weirdly enough are almost the exact size of the little fence stuff that's kind of like embossed into the plastic on the bird or the bird feeder. So it honestly worked out quite nicely. So I'm just cutting that to just wrap around the front. I didn't feel like it needed to go all the way around the back. And then I've got some kind of ivy wired, I don't know, garland, I guess, that I also found in the floral section. And I'm just going to kind of wrap this around the fence posts here and there, trying to make it kind of random, which, you know, is not the easiest thing to do. And then there's apparently a sticker on here too. So I'm going to kind of wrap that around and get that kind of how I want it to go on the fence. Okay, so I got it kind of wrapped. I've got it sized the way I want it to. So now I'm just going to set that aside for a minute while I wait for my glue gun to heat up and kind of play with some of the other embellishments. And we're actually going to put some flowers on the front of our folio. Okay, so I've got my 49 in Market flowers, and I'm just kind of figure out where I want these to go. My glue gun's heating up, but it's not quite hot enough to do my glue for my fence, but it is hot enough to go ahead and just tack down a couple of flowers. So I've got one of the bigger ones there and a smaller one. And I've got these little bees from my stash that I bought, I think for cards or something I did for the virtual bee retreat 2 years ago. That after I spent 45 minutes wandering around Hobby Lobby looking for bees, I remembered, hey, I have some bees at home. Imagine that. And I'm sure you all know how that goes because we all do that. So I'm getting one of those off, and I'm just going to hot glue him on top of that flower on the front of the folio. And this would be one of the times where I burned my finger and, you know, was swearing. So, you know, thus the voiceover. So I've got my flowers on there, and I'm going to set that aside. And by now, this should be warm enough to go ahead and finish tacking down my fence. Like I had done one little piece just to make sure it was going to hold. It was holding just fine. I use clear glue sticks, so you're not really seeing it through the plastic on the side. And so I am just as quickly as I possibly can adding glue on all of those little pickets, or most all of those little pickets on my fence pieces, so that I can get those nice and stuck down on the front of the bird feeder, or the birdhouse as I keep calling it, because it's just so dang cute. I just can't stand it. I really should go back and get a second one in case I decided to do something else with it, but we'll see. Okay, so there's the first one, and I'm just going to fold that over and push it down and kind of, you know, hold it in place for a second to give a minute for that glue to set up. And then I'm going to turn it on its front so that I can get this last little section over here. And again, I'm just getting that glue on there as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And getting that attached. Okay, so next up I'm going to run my pom-pom trim, and I had to stop and find another glue stick there so that I had it ready because I was getting kind of low. So I am just running glue along the front edge of the little house piece, and then just very simply putting that trim down on top of it. It, you know, stuck right away. I didn't really have to hold it too much, just kind of pushing it down in places. And I'm just going to do this all the way around. Okay, so then I decided I needed ivy going up and over the top of the house. So I was kind of trying to kind of curve it and move it so that it looked a little more natural. And, you know, it's wired so I can kind of manipulate it the way I wanted to. And I wasn't like gluing it down, you know, where I was running lines of glue and then putting it on top. I was literally just tacking it in places so that if the wire wanted to kind of stand up a little bit, it could. This is a large part of why this has a voiceover, because there was a lot of burnt fingertips and swearing going on right in this part. Which, you know, anytime I work with a glue gun is pretty much to be expected, because that's just how it goes, and I'm sure most of you can relate. So I'm just kind of going up and around. Was a little bit trickier than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this difficult, but at this point I was committed. This house was getting ivy. So that's like one of the few places I really did kind of run a line, and that was just because I was kind of looping that one up around, in part to give my biggest bird somewhere to kind of sit. so that there was somewhere to kind of tuck him into to eventually glue him on as well. And then the rest of it coming down the other side was much easier. Excuse me. Because you will notice that I didn't talk a whole lot in this tutorial, and that's because I am like right on the edge of losing my voice. After being at a retreat all weekend and doing nothing but talking and laughing, and it was awesome. But that's another story. So just kind of bending some of these so that they stick out a little bit, probably more so on one side than the other, but again, it's because that's where my bird needed to sit, and I needed something for him to kind of rest on when I went to put him on the little house here. Okay, so then I've got my bigger bird, and he is going to sit just right at there. He matches this paper just beautifully. And I couldn't decide when I was at the store if I wanted big birds or little birds, and I ended up actually using both. So I'm going to go ahead and get him tacked down, and then we'll go ahead and add the bigger yellow bird as well. And the yellow bird is not quite as big as my blue bird, so that actually worked out just about perfectly. Okay, so he's kind of sitting but kind of not, and then he was okay. So you can just barely see him sticking out. I did add a small blue bird down there on the front, and I actually ended up adding a yellow bird with him as well, another one of the tiny yellow birds. But here I'm getting the bigger yellow bird and getting her ready to put up on the very top. So I'm going to add glue where she's going to sit, because she did still have a wire that I could kind of run down into the ivy to help her sit better. My little bluebird, for whatever reason, didn't have a wire, so I think he kind of popped off his wire in the bag, which is fine. Okay, so I'm getting her tacked down, and then we're going to add some flowers to the front and a couple more of our bees, and that's about it. Okay, so I'm getting ready to add my little yellow bird on the fence down here on the bottom. So I'm just getting some glue on there where she's gonna sit. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add just a couple of flowers and another one of my bees, and then that basically, and then one of the little tags from the 12 by 12 paper collection, and that about wraps it up. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys watching and, you know, hitting the like button and subscribing and getting notifications so that you know when I post things. I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you, and I will be back before you know it with yet another fun project. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye.